My name is Anna, and I am 24 years old. This story begins when I was a little girl living in a small village on the outskirts of Kansas, where the dusty red roads and vast grasslands served as the playground of my childhood. My mother was an elementary school teacher, and my father was a carpenter. Materially, life was modest, but I always felt sheltered by nature. Every afternoon, my younger brother and I would climb the old oak tree next to our house, picking tiny acorns and pretending they were coins for our shop game. But childhood wasn't always filled with joy. My mother suffered from severe anxiety and often lost control. Her irrational outbursts turned me into the target of her scolding and sometimes painful slaps. Once, I spilled a glass of water on the table and was locked in my room for an entire afternoon with nothing but an old book. Over time, I learned to retreat into my own world, books and dreams of a better future. At 18, I received a full scholarship to a prestigious university. As the bus pulled away from my small town, I made a silent promise to myself: I will never come back here. My future awaits ahead. The big city initially felt like a labyrinth. The towering buildings, honking cars, and neon lights overwhelmed me. But gradually, I adapted. I threw myself into my studies with enthusiasm, but couldn't entirely resist the allure of late-night parties and endless fun. For the first time in my life, I tasted freedom, a freedom both thrilling and dangerous. By my third year, I started feeling drained. After a painful breakup with my first boyfriend, I sank into despair and began to question, does anything I'm doing have meaning? Where am I going? Does life even have a purpose? That morning, I woke up late after a restless night. Outside the window, the pale October sun cast a dusty haze. I realized I had less than 30 minutes to prepare for my internship interview. My mood was heavy, as if carrying the invisible weight of doubts. Is my soul even alive, or is it just my body that exists? Hurriedly, I splashed water on my face, grabbed a shirt, and jumped into my car. I skipped breakfast, and most importantly, the morning coffee I usually couldn't do without. The roads to downtown were bustling with traffic, but my mind was spinning with a whirlwind of thoughts. Am I good enough? Why does it feel like everything is falling apart? At the first intersection, the yellow light turned on. I thought, I can make it. I sped up. At the second intersection, the red light appeared ahead, but I didn't notice in time. From the left, a large truck was speeding toward me at a terrifying rate. In that brief moment, I had one clear thought. This is it. A prayer escaped my mind. God, please help me. Then came the screech of brakes, followed by a deafening crash. In an instant, I felt a surge of pain as my body was flung sideways inside the car. I lost control of my hands, legs, and even my thoughts as shards of glass and debris swirled around like a storm. The sharp pain began to fade, as if being swept into nothingness. My vision blurred, and I suddenly realized I was no longer in the car. A transformation occurred, from fear and helplessness to an indescribable state of peace. I awoke in a strange state. The first thing I noticed was that I was no longer in my body. I was standing, or rather floating, above my car. From this vantage point, I could see everything clearly. My car crumpled, the windshield shattered, and my body motionless amidst the mangled metal. Blood streaked my forehead, and one arm lay unnaturally twisted as though broken. Oddly, I felt no pain. I felt no physical sensation at all. Instead, there was a lightness, a sense of freedom enveloping me, as though I had shed a tremendous burden. I turned and saw a radiant light in the distance. It wasn't blinding, but exuded a tranquility I couldn't resist. I was drawn toward it like a moth to a flame. As I approached, a group of light beings appeared. They were tall and luminous like living torches. Their faces weren't distinct, but I sensed wisdom and love emanating from them. One being stepped forward and communicated with me, not through words but through thoughts. You're not meant to stay here. You have much work to do. I wanted to ask, what work? Why? But before I could, the being raised its hand. A warm light engulfed me, filling me with healing and energy. I realized this light came from a divine source. This is God, I thought, and felt a profound faith spread through my soul. The being continued, remember that every action you take carries meaning. Live with love, forgiveness, and faith. You will find your path. I was transported to a dark yet non-threatening space. Images began to unfold like a slow-motion film. It was my life, moments from my childhood playing in the fields to times I hurt others. Every action, no matter how small, was laid bare. I saw myself mocking a friend for wearing old clothes. I saw my mother crying in the kitchen because of my cold remarks. I felt the pain others experienced because of me. This wasn't ordinary guilt, it was a deep realization as I witnessed my actions through the eyes and emotions of those I had hurt. Watching my mother cry, I didn't just see her sadness. I felt the vulnerability she had tried to hide and her struggles to raise me in difficult circumstances. At the same time, I was shown positive moments, comforting my brother after a bad day, his relieved smile shining like morning sunlight. When I volunteered to clean up the park with friends, I saw the joy that radiated from simple acts. Once, I helped an elderly man carry heavy bags onto a bus. I hadn't remembered this before, but now I saw his grateful smile as a symbol of connection and gratitude between people. These memories weren't about punishment or blame. I understood that every action, whether good or bad, had meaning and shaped who I was. The light being gazed at me with compassion and said, "Learn from this and become a better version of yourself." I also realized that many of those I had wronged had forgiven me, and some had even prayed for me. I heard their prayers, echoes from a sacred space. This moved me deeply, and I promised to change. I wanted to remain in that light forever, but the light being said, "You must return. You have a mission. Bring love and light to the world." I felt myself being pulled back, as if sucked through a narrow tube. Re-entering my body was jarring, heavy, and painful. When I opened my eyes, I found myself in a hospital bed under the harsh glow of fluorescent lights. A nurse was checking my vitals, and a doctor stood nearby saying, "You're lucky to be alive, but recovery will take time." My journey of healing began, a long road fraught with challenges and pain. I vividly remember those early days when my body felt like a dead weight, and each small step was a battle against agony. But faith became my source of strength. I prayed daily, asking God for patience and resilience. Whenever the pain became unbearable, I closed my eyes and envisioned the light I had seen, the light of boundless love. The church community became a great source of comfort. Every weekend, church members visited me with words of encouragement and joined me in prayer. These group prayers were filled with love, reminding me I wasn't alone in this journey. One pastor said to me, "Anna, God has a plan for you. These trials are only shaping you to be stronger." His words ignited a fire of determination within me. As I gradually regained my health, I decided to fulfill the mission I had been given. I began organizing talks at the church, where I shared my experience. I spoke about the light, love, and forgiveness I had learned, inspiring others to live better and draw closer to God. These sessions not only spread inspiration, but also motivated me to do more. Beyond sharing my story, I became involved in charitable projects. I formed a volunteer group to help the homeless in my community, providing meals and clothing. I also organized workshops to teach young people life skills to overcome challenges. These activities not only benefited the community, but also deepened my sense of connection with others. Each evening, as I ended my day, I spent time in prayer. I felt God's presence in every small act, and I knew I was carrying out the mission He had entrusted to me. If there's one thing I've learned from my experience, it's that love and light exist within each of us. God created us not to be perfect, but to learn, love, and forgive. Life can be full of challenges, but through them, we discover the strength to overcome. I want to leave you with this message. Live with love and kindness, for it is how we bring God's light into this world. Remember, every action you take, no matter how small, can make a profound difference. And when you face hardships, seek the light within your soul. for that is where God always dwells.